You said you were cool with that.
I wasn't happy, so happy birthday didn't fit.
You just inject God in this?
Keep it one. You
take care of all of it.
It's to ask the source.
I got to have you, like.
Because we are in court.
It should not have been.
You should know me better than this.
I changed, that's all. I changed.
He was telling people I was just getting fat.
So-called relationship with several other people.
Don't your sons have a part to play in this as well?
It was pretty difficult to determine who was telling the truth between these two. First, Miss Brewington said Mr. Lee, who she claimed has been the father of her son since the day he was born, is refusing to take care of the baby all because he doesn't want to spend his money. Mr. Lee, on the other hand, had quite a different analogy for the whole mix. I hope you guys are ready for an epic battle of fatherhood. This is like anything you've ever seen before.
Prove your 3-year-old son Giovanni is Mr. Lee's biological child, and you claim Mr. Lee has been a father to your son since the day he was born and is denying paternity because he wants to avoid paying child support. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Lee, you say you've known from day one Giovanni was not your son, and you are here to prove Miss Brewington is a liar and has been using you for money. Is that correct?
Now, Miss Brewington was on firm ground when it came to who the father of her child was. There was no shaking her mind in that courtroom. She was ready to put up a fight, trust me. But there was no denying the fact that their relationship wasn't a pleasant one. There were so many ups and downs, you would even wonder why they are still together.
Sleeping with him, we were actually working on our relationship. We already have a child from a previous situation. We got back together. We're working on us. So when I found out I was pregnant, I didn't think it was gonna be a shock or a surprise or anything like that.
And you say you know 100% you're not the biological father of Giovanni.
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
And Mr. Lee had a totally different tale to tell the courtroom. He was 100% certain the child could not be his. When he was asked why, his reply was one you would never expect to hear in the courtroom. He said when the baby was being conceived, there was no form of relationship that was going on between him and Miss Brewington. He even denied ever being in a relationship with her. Now that's ice cold.
You don't believe you were working on the relationship at the time Giovanni was conceived?
No, not at all.
You weren't together?
No, not at all.
Your Honor, I was living with him. We were living in the same household, in the same bed.
Were you living in the same house?
Around the time, yes.
But you weren't together?
Exactly.
So were you sharing a bed?
Yes, ma'am.
And fluids.
No.
Clearly, yes.
Jump right into the tale of pregnancy. Miss Brewington finds out she's pregnant. She picks up her phone to tell the supposed father that she has his baby. Is he excited about the news? Oh, you can bet he definitely wasn't. He even had her do 3 separate pregnancy tests just so he could believe she was pregnant. If you ask me, I'd say he has some real trust issues.
I told him, he did not believe me at all. He went out and got 3 pregnancy tests, made me take all of them. They were all positive. And he was like, well, that's not my baby because we didn't have sex. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We've been having sex. And then the last time we probably had sex was Valentine's Day, maybe a few days after. I'm like, this is our whole love baby. Like, no, come on now. My son was due. He was born in November.
As things start to get really heated up in the courtroom, the truth bombs start to drop. And trust me, these bombs are going to leave your mind scrambled. Now, while Miss Bruton was getting pregnant, Mr. Lee was selling a different story to his friends. He said Miss Brewington had been eating a lot of fast food, and that's why she was getting fat. At this point, we can all agree that he definitely doesn't want to be the father of the baby.
No, he was telling people I was just getting fat. He was like, she just eats a lot of fast food. Everybody was my friends were rubbing my stomach. I'm showing ultrasounds to people. He's like, don't believe her, she's just fat. The entire time. I'm talking about, I'm going into labor. He's like, no, you're not.
What kind of denial is this? Mr. Lee, you taking denial too far.
This is what it was. She was trying to get back with me.
Even with all the denial and trust issues Mr. Lee had in his heart, he still went on to sign the birth certificate. As if that wasn't enough, he even went on to give the baby a name. Now, if you have so much doubt about a child being yours, why'd you sigh and give the child a name? If you ask me, there's something these two aren't saying because it's starting to look really funny right now.
I actually told him I was like, you don't want to wait until we do a DNA test. I offered the DNA test in the hospital.
She did not say that, Your Honor. She did not say that.
But you signed the birth certificate, right?
Yes, I did.
If you had all this denial and you say she eating fast food and this isn't even a pregnancy, but then you get there and execute a birth certificate?
It was the right thing at that moment. We already had a previous child, like I said, so.
You just go around signing birth certificates.
Oh, Miss Brewington had had enough of Mr. Lee's doubts and trust issues. It got so bad that she decided to get a DNA test for the baby when she gave birth. But guess what? When she offered, Mr. Lee turned her down. I told you something didn't seem right with their stories because it just doesn't add up.
He offered the DNA test. Why didn't you take it?
I figured when I signed it, I knew she was gonna put me on child support because I was already on child support. Now, with the previous child that we had, I had to do a DNA test at the child support services. I figured if I sign it, they're gonna take me right off after I do the DNA test. We came there, and then they said, no, we don't do a DNA test because you already signed the birth certificate.
Yes.
He
kept saying-
declined.
Well, it's finally time to unveil the truth after so many lies and deceptions. The day of reckoning is finally here with everyone itching to know the truth. Are you ready to find out? I bet you are. So take a deep breath because here it comes.
Mr. Lee, you are not the father.
Told y'all.
Hold up.
I already knew. I told you.
Don't look at me like that. I don't know God's
Who
plan.
else?
You're not here on this earth to live in denial because that cuts off the possibilities for your life.
This is quite similar to the previous case, except this one has so much more drama. Miss Holman was in court to prove that she was very certain that Mr. Drumgold was the father of her child. Was Mr. Drumgold on the same page with her? Hell no! He believed Miss Holman was inty 8 with at least 2 different men that weren't him, so there is no way in the world he can be the father. Fingers crossed, people. This case is gonna give you a lot of goosebumps.
Ms. Holman, you opened this case against Mr. Drumgold because you claim he denies fathering your 2-month-old daughter, Alani. You want Mr. Drumgold to step up after today's results, prove what you believe. He is the father, is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Drumgold, you claim there is no way you are her daughter's father because you know for a fact Miss Holman was sleeping with at least 2 other men at the time of conception.
Goosebumps. Miss Holman wasted 0 time in diving into what has been going on between her and Mr. Drumgold. Oh, she was very good at giving details. She claimed Mr. Drumgold had never shown up when it came to the aspects of being there for her and her baby. But when it was time to get down in bed, he wasted no time knocking at her door. Way to go, Mr. Drumgold. He sure knows what he wants.
Anytime I call Mr. Drumgold and I say, Alani needs this, Alani needs that, it's crickets. But if I call Mr. Drumgold and I'm like, I want some or let me give you he's at my door.
Okay, that's on the menu. That's on the menu. Okay, let's move on. So you feel like he's denying the baby?
Yes, Your Honor.
Apparently, these two didn't start off as the Shrek and Fiona kind of fairy tale. When they started, it was strictly to have a good time in the back room. If you know what I mean? The crazy thing about the situation was that Mr. Drumgold was in a relationship, and he never told Miss Holman. Miss Drumgold is sure good at keeping secrets, if you ask me.
I got to have you, like. He
Oh,
was
that's
like,
what you told him?
Yes, he said, I'm feeling you too. So we made it from there.
So why did it never become a relationship?
During the time I was in a relationship.
But he never told me that. Mr. Drumgold was in a so-called relationship with several other people.
So, Mr. Drumgold, how did you find out Miss Holman was pregnant?
She called me one day and she said that she was pregnant, and I think she said she was like 10 weeks.
As you would expect, the courtroom turned into a blazing inferno within minutes. Mr. Drumgold and Miss Holman were here to drag each other until there was almost nothing left. Right from the moment Miss Holman found out she was pregnant, Mr. Drumgold already had his doubts piling up about him being the father. He even had proof, and trust me, your jaws are definitely about to drop.
More gentlemen that she was messing with.
More gentlemen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so how do you know she was with other men?
As far
Your
as
Honor,
him
I
knowing
came
that
to
I
her
wasn't
mother's
with other
house
men,
and another man
he
was
knew
rubbing
I
her
wasn't
belly.
with
One at a time.
He knew I was dealing with other men because I was very honest with Robert, Mr. Drumgold, up front. I was super honest with him, and I told him, like, I'm doing me, you doing you, because I know how you get down.
She didn't deny it, apparently. She admitted she had been fooling around with other men since they both agreed they were not committed to each other. Now, the question in the picture is, how is she so certain he is the father? I mean, she's been sleeping with other men, so why can't they be the father? Trust me, I have so many questions as well. In her defense, she claimed she knows he is the father because the baby looks exactly like Mr. Drumgold. Oh, she is one funny ass woman.
Look at that! She looks just like
To
her.
me,
when
she
I
looked like
met
her.
Yo.
To me, she
Boy,
looked
boo.
like her.
Boy, boo.
And far as
Boy, boo, Stevie Wonder can see that
All
your
right.
child. Get out of here.
So you are admitting through ample testimony that you were intimate with somebody else during the time.
I absolutely.
she admitting it now.
Okay. So we
Well,
got
later-
that. She admitted it.
Now.
How
Don't forget
did
that.
you find out is the question.
Mr. Rich, who apparently happens to be a possible father, walks into the courtroom. Oh, he was in no joking mood, trust me. It was as if Miss Holman was playing games with his mind. She also told him he could be the possible father of her child while they were intimate behind Mr. Drumgold's back. Like that wasn't enough. Mr. Rich already had a father-daughter bond with the child. There's so much chaos about to erupt.
When she was pregnant with Alani, that Alani was your child?
Yes, she did.
And so what kind of relationship have you built with Alani?
I built a father-daughter relationship with her.
You have?
Yes, Your Honor.
And so you have a very real tie with this beautiful baby.
Yes, I do. I feel like I've been betrayed, man. I feel like I've been let down. I feel like I gave my all to somebody that don't give a care about me.
Miss Holman had some real nerve, all right. She openly said in court that she knew Mr. Rich wasn't the father, but she told him anyway because she knew he was going to take care of her and her child. Trust me, Miss Holman needs some ass whooping because why would you do that to an innocent man? Oh, she's not a nice person at all.
Your Honor, I asked Rich to come back. I knew that Rich wasn't the father, but I knew that he would be there for me. I knew it. I knew he loved me. In spite of everything I've ever put him through, Rich has always loved me, unconditionally. And so I took advantage of that. I didn't want to be by myself while I was pregnant. And I knew that the person I was pregnant by didn't about me.
The person you thought you was pregnant by.
I know who I was pregnant by, so shut your mouth.
The person you thought you was pregnant
Anyway.
Miss Holman, calm down. Mr. Drumgold, calm down.
Well, there's no going back now. The situation is just very messed up, but the truth is about to be unleashed. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. The answers lie in front of the judge. Hold your breath, folks.
Out to him, did you ever get a response?
No, what I was thinking is she found a way like she always do to smooth over her lie. And cause that's what she do.
No, that's not what
She
I do.
found
I
a
So
way
who
to
did you
survive her
think
life.
she was lying to?
No, I knew for a fact she was lying to both of us.
Miss Johnson's ways were definitely not pure. She had been fooling around with a different man who wasn't her husband. Now she's landed herself in one of the most insane situations ever. She has no idea who the father of her child is. Could it be her husband or could it be her boyfriend? Nobody knows for sure. Let's find out, shall we?
You confess you have found yourself literally caught between your lover and your husband.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you now have a daughter and you say you're unsure which man fathered her. Now, Mr. Anderson, you argue that the defendant, Mr. Johnson, is forcing his wife to keep the child from you.
Yes, ma'am.
You believe 4-year-old Briley is your daughter.
Mr. Anderson, who happened to be the boyfriend in the picture, was here for one thing: to claim custody of his child. He made it clear to the courtroom that he wasn't going to back down without a fight. The mind-blowing revelation about this situation was that Mr. Anderson knew Miss Johnson was married and still went on to get intimate with her. What makes him think he could be the father of the child?
She was out on the porch and had on some little short shorts, and we exchanged numbers, got to texting and talking. Before you know it, we was having sex, this and that. Even talked about having a kid at one time, you know, during the little 4 months we was
So
just-
you saw her outside, you thought she was good looking, and you said, I want to meet her, and the next thing you know, you all were having sex.
Yes, ma'am. And you know, we got real close, got to talking, and
But
she
did you
even
know
got-
she was married?
Apparently, this was a situation of two people in a relationship coming to form a totally separate relationship. How ironic, wouldn't you say? Now, Miss Johnson's husband was no saint, all right? The cheating started with him, and all she did was go on to have her own fun, well, at least so she claimed. Guess this wasn't a heaven on earth kind of marriage.
With some other woman, and he wasn't. I wasn't gonna let him just go out and have a good time, and me to sit home and wait for him. So I went out and done my thing too.
Okay, well, at least you told that truth, didn't you? So your position was your husband left you to go be with another woman. Now, is that the reason you were separated, or this happened during the separation?
That happened before the separation.
While Miss Johnson was busy getting intimate with both her husband and Mr. Anderson, she got pregnant. What did she do? Oh, trust me, you're going to want to know. She told her husband that she was pregnant, but wasn't sure if it was his. He didn't mind at all. All he wanted was to be a daddy. Cute, wouldn't you say? Mr. Anderson, on the other hand, wasn't just going to let that happen. He wanted to be part of the baby's life.
Up front with my husband, I told him that I was pregnant, that I wasn't 100% sure that it was his, but he was excited. He said, we're going to do this. I also called Mr. Anderson and told him that I was pregnant, so that I was going to be with my husband.
that he was gonna be the daddy, that she didn't want me to have nothing to do with her.
When did you find out she was pregnant?
I want to say she was probably like 2 months before I found out when she called and told me
I didn't
about
want to confuse Briley with two different daddies.
Now, when Miss Johnson told Mr. Anderson that she wanted her husband to be the father of her child, he was initially cool with it, at least so he claims. But Miss Johnson said it was all a lie. The courtroom turned into a charade, with both Mr. Anderson and Miss Johnson calling themselves lairs. Apparently, she told her husband she wasn't seeing Mr. Anderson anymore, but that wasn't the case. They hooked up again just a year before. Wow.
When I got pregnant, right around the time when I got pregnant, which I'm not sure if Brad or Randy is father.
That was the last time.
Yes, ma'am.
Last year.
Last
That
year.
is a lie.
Wait a minute, because this calendar was from 2008. What happened last year?
We hooked up.
Miss Johnson, is this true?
No, ma'am. He's lying.
This never happened.
That never happened.
When the child was born, her husband was by her side. He really wanted to be a daddy, honestly. But hold up, things get pretty funny here. Mr. Anderson calls Miss Johnson to find out how the pregnancy went. Guess who picks up the phone? Mr. Johnson. Yep, you heard that right. What happened afterwards was completely out of this world.
Well, you know, I'm real. I'm real. I'm a man, you know. Hey, you call, I'm gonna handle the phone.
Did you hand her the phone and not hang up on this man? And look, I want the truth. Did you do that because you know in your mind there's a possibility that he could be the child's father too?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
All right. So to this day, Riley's now 4 years old.
Now, Mr. Anderson brought in a whole new set of cards to the table. He was asked if he ever got a chance to meet the baby, and his answer shocked everyone in the courtroom. He said he met the baby on several occasions. He even gave instances that he could remember. But here's where things get out of hand. Miss Johnson keeps all of this a secret from her husband. I guess she wasn't over Mr. Anderson at all.
Has met me at the ballpark and let me see Briley. Her mother
That is a lie.
sneaks around, let me meet her, go at grocery stores, at football games and stuff. Yes, they have, but it's always, he don't know nothing about it when they do it.
We may have seen each other at the ballpark or something, but I've never intentionally carried my daughter to meet him.
Your Honor, it was last year when she turned 3. I called her mother and asked her, could I bring her a birthday gift?
Well, it's finally time to bring the baby daddy drama to a close. There was a lot of fighting and accusations between these two, Mr. Anderson and Miss Johnson. The question still remains, people. Who is the father of the baby? Well, let's find that out, shall we?
Her biological father is Mr. Anderson.
So,
Your Honor, may I see my little sister? May I see my little sister?
No.
And I can show you that she does not, like, she doesn't acknowledge the fact, like.
Acknowledge that she doesn't know y'all.
I hope you paternity fans are ready to get your minds blown to bits because this case will do just that. Miss Slade claimed her ex-boyfriend is denying the paternity of her son, and trust me, he had a very good reason. Mr. Simpson claims she wasn't the only one she was intimate with. There were 2 other men in the mix, and one of them could most likely be his brother. It's a crazy case, people. Let's jump straight into it.
You admit you had sex with your ex-boyfriend, Mr. Simpson, as well as with one of his good friends. Now you claim Mr. Simpson denies paternity of your son. Mr. Simpson, you argue that not only did Miss Slade admit to having sex with one of your friends, but there was also a third man who you believe could be the father of her son.
They had plans to get married, but the seed of doubts that were planted in his mind by Miss Slade just wasn't going to let him follow through. He claimed he always knew Miss Slade wasn't always completely honest with him. Mr. Simpson wasn't just jabbing. He had instances to back up his claims of not being the father of the child.
We're actually planning on getting married, and I come home, and her son, you know, he waits one day, he sits me down and he talks to me. You know, I help raise him. It's my little dude, you know, we kick it. So he goes on to tell me about, you know, one guy, this guy I know, he parks his truck behind the house to hide the car from him coming over, spending the night. Then he goes on to tell me again that another guy.
To tell you how insane their relationship was, the whole neighborhood knew what was going on at every instance. Every time, Mr. Simpson would hear rumors that Miss Slade was messing around with a few of his guys, and there was a chance she could be dating someone else. Trust me, that's enough to give him a heart attack.
People coming home, streets talking to me, telling me, yeah, she might have messed with one of your homeboys, she might have messed with another one, which was Eric, which the rumor was that she had messed with Eric and another one of my good friends. So we actually have a conversation at my grandmother's house with her and the other guy. They sit there, I bring them together like I'm gonna do. If it's something I heard, I'm gonna bring you together. I wanna know the truth.
All right.
I asked them about it in my grandmother's kitchen.
I promise you, the allegations that were flying around in that courtroom could make 2 countries go to war with each other. Now the story about his brother comes into play, and there's a whole lot going on. Apparently, while he was away for a bit, Miss Slade and his brother were going down in the sheets behind his back. Miss Slade is one heck of a woman, I tell you.
My brother get oral sex from another woman. So now I thinks to myself, okay, you telling this story, y'all telling me that, oh yeah, okay, old girl was doing this and doing that, but you're sitting here watching. So that's the first time I'm like, really? And then they go on to finish the story off that they stayed there.
A video statement from his brother is played in court, and it shakes the atmosphere in the courtroom. His brother says she was not just intimate with him, but with the entire town. Those are some heavy accusations right there, if you ask me. Did Miss Slade deny it? I'm sure you know the answer to that already.
Accusing me of sleeping with her, thinking that that's my son, but he's definitely not. Keisha slept with the whole town. She's nasty, and my brother needs to leave her alone and get his son and go on about his business.
Can't none of them do for his son, and that's a lie too, sir.
That was strong allegation.
Right, and I can't believe that he
I have
just
some
said
more
this
evidence that I
because
want to submit.
when I first got with him and he got locked up, he told me to watch his brother.
I mean, it's one thing to be accused of a particular offense, but to be accused of that offense with proof? Now that's a totally different ballgame. Mr. Simpson had enough evidence to show that he wasn't just talking out of his mind.
Back right here at the bottom, right-hand corner. This is a picture of my brother's birthmark in the same exact
Jerome,
spot.
hand me those.
Same exact shape. They look identical. I mean, he does
So
look
you're
in favor of my
saying
brother.
that your brother and your son, child in question, they both have very similar birthmarks in the same part of their body.
Same exact spot.
It's high time we brought this paternity war zone to a close. It's been one tricky ride here, but all that suspense is about to be over. All eyes are on the judge as she unleashes the truth.
The child's father has been determined to be Mr. Simpson.
Please take him, your baby. Please help.
I'm his father. I'm going to be a father.
Good.
I'm going to be a father.